Jonathan Bloch has got some amazing clients that he's got involved in racing. So Tony Cottrell is one of the nicest guys that I've sort of now.
Broadcasting live from the Capital OTB studios, this is Racing Across America with Seth Merrow.
We'd like to thank Woodbine for their sponsorship of this program and some of the other programming and events here at Capital OTB. Woodbine open now through December, featuring great racing, including the King's Plate coming up in August, Turf Champions Day with the Woodbine Mile in September, and much, much more. Woodbine Racing, great racing north of the border. Good morning and welcome to Racing Across America on this Sunday morning. I'm Seth Merrow. Thanks for joining us. Happy you're on board. We're going to do a little stakes recap as we normally do on a Sunday morning, maybe do a little handicapping as well. So keep that in mind. But we'll start out kind of catching you up because there's some really a whole swath of the country is expecting some hot weather over the next few days, which has kind of changed up the racing schedules at various tracks. So we'll update you on that. We'll also update you. One of the tracks that's going to change up is Finger Lakes, who have canceled for Monday, but they're going to add Thursday. We had an on-the-road trip to Finger Lakes scheduled for tomorrow, Monday. That'll be moved to Thursday, and we'll also shift the bankroll. So the bankroll team is still open on the website, capitalotb.com. Click on the promotions link. Look for that Finger Lakes bankroll. Click on that, fill it out. That'll close maybe noontime today, somewhere in that vicinity, and we'll select the team from there. And then the team will, I'll play on behalf of the team on Thursday when we actually make the trip out to the Finger Lakes. So we're just going to kind of shift to a new day this week, but the bankroll still intact, as it were, and you still have a couple hours to jump in and put your name in the hat to potentially get on the bankroll team. And now let me update you on where we are. Today, Woodbine and Canterbury have shifted their post times. Woodbine is going to go at 4 p.m., Canterbury at 6 p.m. Canterbury is funny because they canceled last night due to the heat. But it was last night. It was a nighttime card, so that was funny. I mean, maybe and I think these days it's not just the tracks don't look at the temperature; they do that heat index, which is a combination of anticipated temperatures and humidity. And we all know we've all experienced those summers up here, summer days with the oppressive humidity. So I think tracks are kind of looking at that number and change things up over the next few days. So again, Woodbine 4 p.m., Canterbury at 6 p.m. Hawthorne has canceled for today. As noted, tomorrow Finger Lakes canceled. They'll add a Thursday card. Harrington goes at 7 p.m. tomorrow. Finger Lakes canceled. Harrington at 7 p.m. Parks canceled tomorrow as well, and Tuesday. So Parks canceled Monday and Tuesday. Plain Ridge on Tuesday canceled. Harrington again Tuesday, 7 p.m. And already Delaware canceled for Wednesday. So there's your update on the various tracks that are on the sidelines due to the heat situation. So and again, that heat index has become kind of a go-to, and they use it up at Saratoga. You get a few of those days up at Saratoga too, and they're monitoring that heat and humidity. And so I think the expectation over the next few days, and some people on Twitter is great. Some people are like, why can't they plan this better and maybe shift post times and go faster and yada yada. And we've all been in those hot and humid days. And I think betting these days, most of it is coming from, not on the track at home or simulcast facilities. But you do have to take into account your actual customer who's there on the track. And if it's going to be a miserable day for them, I think that has to factor in. And also, if it's going to be a miserable day for your fans on the track, it's going to be a miserable day for the athletes on the track as well. So I think, they believe me, I'm sure that these tracks do not want to cancel, but in anticipation of whether that it's not only oppressive, but potentially, health issues for the horses and whatnot. So again, there's your update on some of the cancellations or post-time movements or whatnot for the next few days. Also want to alert you that, and I've said it the past couple of days, I normally don't tout carryovers on the jackpot bets because the jackpot carries over just normally, being a jackpot, which only will go if one person has it. And the other day at Churchill, I think there were 3 or 4 horses live to pull it down. But that's what I'm going to bring up. Churchill, the past week, it's been over 800,000. Going into today, it's going to be over 900,000. And I mention it because yesterday, for instance, and I used to jump in when it got up to this size down at Gulfstream. There's a 20-cent ticket. You can put together a decent little ticket and take a shot. And the consolation's okay. You put together a $40-some, $60-some ticket. And if you can pull down yesterday, it paid $1,971 for a 20-cent ticket down at Churchill. That was the consolation. So again, we go into today with a $923,000 carryover in the pick 6 play down at Churchill. And yesterday, you look at the prices, it was havable with, I would expect, a fairly reasonable ticket. You started the sequence out $8.80, $4.34, $12.04, $7.28, $6.78, $8.48. So there was only one horse over $10, and that was a $12 horse. You had a $4 horse in the mix, a $6 horse. So you're looking at, even money and 2 to 1. Again, this seemed like a very havable sequence, and 20 cents brought you back well over $1,900. So I just mention it for folks who may think like I do. And as I say, I used to, that the Gulfstream Rainbow seems to have gotten tougher, however, for one reason or another. Maybe the addition of the number of synthetic races, although that doesn't bother me that much, but I'll still jump in occasionally, but I used to play it a little more because you get up to $500,000, $750,000. The consolation can be okay. So that's the situation down at Churchill. And I also want to note there is a similar fun situation in multiple wagers down at Laurel today. They have carryovers. The early pick 5 at Laurel today, $58,000 carryover. And people love that pick 5. So that they will send it in there. Early pick 5 at Laurel, $58,000 carryover. The late pick 5, $32,000 carryover. So they will be sending it in at Laurel on the pick 5s down there with really nice carryovers. Early pick 5 and late pick 5. And again, that is Laurel today. All right, let's look at some of the action from yesterday. It was kind of a light day. We had the Belmont Stakes a couple of weeks ago, and then the week after, last weekend, I thought was a lot of fun. There was plenty of really nice action. This was not quite as loaded with the stakes action, but we'll look at Belmont, Monmouth, Thistledown. Nice stake last night at Churchill as well. And then next segment, I have some races maybe worth noting from Royal Ascot to take a look at over the past few days across the pond, as it were. But we'll start things out with a horse that I think is going to be very fun to watch going forward. And we'll look at the Belmont at the Big A New York Stallion Series. 6 furlongs on the grass, and Friend of the Devil went off at 30 cents to the dollar. I scratched into that one. My top pick scratched out, and so I moved that one up, and that may have been the situation for a lot of folks because, again, 30 cents to the dollar. And interesting, Chris Elliott, the apprentice who's kind of traveling around. I respect these guys who on their days off say, I got to keep going. And he popped down to Florida on some days off, and you've seen him in other places. But he's an up-and-comer. He'll be interesting to watch. But in a stakes race, doesn't get the apprentice allowance. I heard the interview after the race with Carlos Martin, the trainer, and the owner. And the owner was kind of like, he's been on board the horse, and I like to give guys a chance and have them going. And then Maggie Wolfendale caught up with Chris Elliott a couple of races later, or next race. He had a nice day yesterday. He might have won 3. But he was kind of grateful to the owner. And it's nice to see, a guy who's been on the horse regularly, and they get into a stake and they hold on to him. And he rode the horse very well. A horse with plenty of early speed, Friend of the Devil, going to be out in front here, the number 5 horse, and just kind of power away to a chart margin of 4. Running second was River of Time, the number 1, owned by our friend Roddy Valenti. You can see his black and white silks there. Nice run by River of Time. A horse Roddy had claimed down at Gulfstream this winter. So that's nice. Again, a nice second place finish in a stakes race in New York, a few starts after the claim. But it was a big win from Friends of the Devil. Interesting, after the race, the post-race article in the Racing Forum, Carlos Martin gave credit to Irad Ortiz, who had ridden the horse up at Saratoga last year in what wound up to be a very poor effort. Ran 9th by 30 lengths. And Irad said, told Carlos, horse may appreciate the turf. Maybe give him a shot there. They moved to the turf the next time. The horse won. They went back to the dirt, ran 6th. And then in the seasonal debut back in April, back to the turf and won. So now 3 for 3 on the turf. And what we saw yesterday was impressive. 6 furlongs in 107.41. And the options that Carlos was looking at coming out were the quick call up at Saratoga, July 13th, August 14th, the Cab Callaway going a mile. And Carlos thought the horse may be okay up to a mile. We may try to stretch him out a little bit. He's just been 6 and 7 furlongs so far. But yesterday's victory was impressive. It was a nice win number 3 and start number 5. And again, all the wins were on the turf. So as I say, yesterday did produce some runners that will be worth looking at going forward up here at Saratoga. And this is one of them. We'll see where they do elect to go. But again, it's another one of those, I talk about it all the time. We'll see one a little bit later. You have a nice New York bred. Your options are just wide open. So far, it's only been State Bred Company, and the Cab Callaway will be one of those New York Stallion Series races as well. But the quick call is a grade 3 open event. So it'll be interesting to see, given what he did yesterday and the way he did it. I think he'll be fine in open company. Another horse that ran very well yesterday, and I would think possibly we would see up at Saratoga, being it is a Chad Brown trainee. Monmouth Park yesterday, the Goldwood, $100,000, 5.5 furlongs on the grass. Epona Hope was the favorite. And I had Epona Hope on top, but I said as I was in here handicapping, went off eventually at 3 to 5. And I said, likeliest winner, has plenty of early speed, and it gets a nice outside post position to pick a spot. Paco Lopez on board. I said, the price is just the likeliest winner, not 3 to 5 likely. And that's the way it worked out. And I said Rosie Jeeks, who I had right underneath the one horse, was very playable. And at a $10.80 mutual, I guess so. It's Chad Brown, Sammy Camacho on board. Number 1, Rosie Jeeks gets it done. I will say, you see Draferos kind of make a nice imposing move up the rail and then just kind of hesitates a little bit while Rosie Jeeks keeps the momentum going. I had those two in the second and third spot, Rosie Jeeks second and Draferos third. And they were 4 to 1 and 7 to 1. And for the logical, if you thought, Epona's Hope at 3 to 5 is a little too short, and you played around, you wound up with an exacted just under $100. It was $95 and change for, again, a couple of players that I thought were logical contenders. if you got past Diploma's Hope. And again, at the price, those two were certainly looking a lot more intriguing. But I say we may see this one up at Saratoga because, again, it is a Chad Brown horse, Rosie Cheeks. Very lightly raced, third win in the fifth career start, now 2 for 2 this year. Had a couple of starts back in 2023, won the career debut, and then tried Stakes Company, didn't fare that well. Went from November of 23 to February of 24, came back and ran 9th, and went to the sidelines from February 24 until May of this year. So there have been starts and stops. Finally gets to string a couple together, moves into Stakes Company, and makes a nice late run. And again, being a Chad Brown horse and clearly having some talent there, again, would be one of those I wouldn't be shocked to see up at Saratoga, but is based down at Monmouth. It seems, well, I say, last couple of works were at Monmouth, and Chad Brown does have a string down there. Works just before that were over at Belmont. But again, we'll keep our eyes on that one as a horse with clearly a little bit of potential going forward. And Marcus Hirsch wrote the follow-up article in the Racing Forum for this race and noted that since 2020, Chad Brown has won 34 stakes at Monmouth. And then he noted there are a couple of guys tied for second winning stakes in that same period, and they each have 16. 34 stakes, and the second place finishers 16. So a lot of folks look at, Pletcher runs some horses at Monmouth and Chad, and then those horses will come up to Saratoga and it's like, oh, that's the B string. Hey, said over the past few years, I don't think those are the B string. When they come up to Saratoga, I think you definitely have to give them a serious look. All right, let's move over to Thistledown on Saturday and look at probably what is the highlight of their meet, actually, the Grade 3 Ohio Derby. $500,000 up for grabs, a mile and an eighth the trip. And there was a nice article, I think Nicole Russo wrote it in the Racing Forum coming into this race, kind of pointing out some horses that have kind of knocked heads with the leaders in the class earlier and had some excuses, and it was going to be fun to see what they did. I will say, I took a swing in the race with Capo Luca because I said sometimes we go to these tracks for this kind of race, a B-level track, and the hometown hero runs very well. Capo Luca came in with a 3-race win streak, so it clearly shown an affinity for Thistledown, and I took a shot there at 41-1 from a 10-1 morning line. Capo Luca did not run well at all. Wound up 8th in the field of 8. So that was a poor performance. Capo Luca is going to be the number 3 horse. But Jeremiah Engelhardt, I had Moplex in the 3rd spot underneath. I used McAfee a little bit, and I thought Chunk of Gold was interesting and clever again. But Moplex here for Jeremiah Engelhardt gets it done and done pretty nicely. Chunk of Gold will run 2nd. McAfee runs 3rd. Disappointing as the close-up second choice at 9-5. Clever Again winds up 6th. Clever Again was the horse that had won a nice stake 2-back prior to yesterday, 2-back at Oaklawn, the Hot Springs, with a triple-digit 101 buyer, and then had all that trouble at the top of the stretch in the Preakness. So went off as the close-up second choice yesterday at 9-5. At 6-5, Chunk of Gold was the favorite. I was kind of a little bit surprised. I would have said with the triple-digit buyer underneath, Clever Again would have taken it. But as I say, they were fairly close. But of the two, Chunk of Gold obviously ran better, came out of a trouble trip in the Kentucky Derby that was probably better than it looked. Had run 2nd in the Louisiana Derby and 2nd in the Risen Star before that. So Chunk of Gold stamps himself as one to keep our eyes on going forward. I want to see another one from Clever Again because I think what we saw earlier was probably more indicative of his talent, but he may be one that kind of needs things to really play out on the front end. So I'd be interested to see what both of those do. But again, Chunk of Gold comes out with a little bit of buzz, perhaps, with a nice second place finish again, getting back on track after the trouble trip in the Kentucky Derby. But all of that said, the horse that looked really good was Moplex. And I said earlier, I would mention another New York bred that has done well and demonstrated the benefits of a good New York bred. You can pick off your New York bred stakes and you can go into open company. And Moplex, fourth stakes victory, the second graded stakes, second start of the career last summer, won the Sanford up at Saratoga, has bounced around and won some New York bred stakes as well. In the start prior to yesterday, he had won the Bayshore, which is an open stake. So he's got a couple of graded stakes now, adding to yesterday, and a number of open stakes as well. Interesting to see where he goes next. The Albany comes up, but it's not until August 21st. And you think that's 2 months away. You would think they probably like something in between. There are certainly plenty of options, but the Albany is for New York breds at a couple $100,000. But again, they've now established themselves, because that was a nice little field yesterday of, again, some horses that have kind of knocked heads with the top of the class and have done okay earlier in the year. So Moplex, that was a nice performance yesterday that, again, I would think gives them some nice options going forward. But as I say, the Albany would clearly be one of those as a New York bred 3-year-old, and a couple $100,000 up for grabs. So we'll see where they go next. But again, it was a nice run from Moplex yesterday, a nice little New York bred who, with yesterday's purse, which would be 300, went over, approached or went over $750,000 in earnings. A horse that was purchased at an auction for $45,000. So not bad. Not bad on the New York bred side of things. All right, and just prior to that race on the card out at Thistle yesterday was the Lady Jacqueline. I had Penoir on top, but I thought Where's My Ring was very interesting. However, Where's My Ring became a very notable scratch, and that made Penoir an overwhelming 30 cents to the dollar favorite. But I was kicking myself because, again, I went for the hometown hero in the Ohio Derby and didn't get anything out of it. And the Lady Jacqueline, it was a hometown hero. GoldenEye Magic coming off a couple of starts at Thistle and a couple of thirds, but holds off or goes by the big favorite Penoir. Penoir, the number 7, GoldenEye Magic, the number 2. And again, he's going to push on by late here. Chart margin's going to be a nose as the rank outsider at 31-1. And just gets there. Oof. And as I say, I was a little, there was some consternation that I picked the wrong local to get it done. But 10-1 on the morning line, went off at 31-1, $65 for GoldenEye Magic. But again, I showed that in part because, as I say, on these big days at some of these next level tracks, at the very least, you have to look for nice performers locally to hit your try or your super at big prices. But sometimes they get up like that and get a nice win at a big price. And as I say, I was a little bit disappointed that I picked a hometown hero in the wrong race of the 2 yesterday. And before we go to the break, we will take a look at the Chicago last night, another one where I kind of whiffed. And we talked about this race a little bit on the show yesterday. I didn't know what to do with Vava off the seasonal debut, Derby City Distaff, which was a 7th place finish. But it was over a sloppy track. It was the seasonal debut. This is a horse with a lot of talent, clearly. Came into the race yesterday, 16 starts, 6 wins, almost $2 million. And I went back and forth with Vav and eventually left that one off. I wound up going with Zeitlos, and Claret Beret was a horse I had in the mix as well. They're going to run all right, but Vav is going to run very well. Vav is the number 5 horse. Again, it's Cherie DeVoe, West Point and company in here. Irad Ortiz on board down at Churchill to get this ride. That probably told you something as well. But Vava getting it done over Claret Beret at 10-1, and Zeitlost at 4-1 runs third. My Main Squeeze, another nice New York bred, runs fifth at 5-2. A little bit disappointing there, but no disappointment from Vava. Again, a Cherie DeVoe runner for West Point and a group of owners pushes the earnings over 2 million. I was, gotta have gone over 2 or approaching 2, maybe. Maybe just under a couple million. Either way, that's pretty good. So nice little runner for the team. We'll see. Cherie DeVoe had this one in the Ballerina last year. I would think that would be another possibility. It came out of a win in this race. The Chicago ran third in the Ballerina last year. So I would think possibly up at Saratoga again this season. But she's back on track now as a 5-year-old. Wrapped up the season last year with an 8th in the Breeders' Cup Filly and Mayer Turf. Came out of that Ballerina and then went to the Breeders' Cup, ran 8th. And then, as I say, the seasonal debut, a 7th place finish, but rebounded very nicely last night down at Churchill with the victory in the second start of her 5-year-old season. So we'll see if they follow the same plan as last year and head to the Ballerina up at Saratoga. Love to see her up there. Shaping up to be, again, a really fun year up at Saratoga and beyond. The various divisions are really shaping up nicely. The 3-year-old division, to me, and people have said, this is a fun 3-year-old division. And I'm kind of agreeing, but I'm saying, to me, sovereignty and journalism, maybe you throw Baeza in the mix, but certainly sovereignty and journalism are kind of head and shoulders above the class. I think after that, it's maybe a little more like last year where they spend time beating each other. Last year, however, as we got into the second half of the year, they started to, the group of leaders started to define themselves. And we'll see if that plays out on the 3-year-old scene this year. But the top 2 this year, as opposed to last year where the whole class kind of stayed undefined until later in the year. This year, the top 2, I think, are legit and have well defined themselves in the first half of the year, sovereignty and journalism. But all the other divisions, and particularly this year as compared to last year, the handicap division is going to be a lot of fun with races like the Whitney up at Saratoga and whatnot. All right, we'll take a break. When we come back, as promised, some horses that may be worth watching internationally. Maybe we'll keep our fingers crossed we see them here for one reason or another. And I think that is certainly possible. At least one of them has been here a few times. Oh, and we're also looking at a couple American runners that ran well at Royal Ascot. But we'll take a look at some Royal Ascot action from earlier this week when we come back and Racing Across America continues. So stay tuned.
Come on.
I want sales reports on my desk by Monday.
Oops. My bad.
Love racing? RTN brings you every live simulcast on your home television, plus live video streaming and race replays on your PC and mobile devices. To order, visit rtn.tv. RTN, a breed apart.
Sometimes it pays to go with the flow, to check your worries at the door, to reconnect with your crew, to follow the thrills and the flavor, to roll with it and see where it takes you, to enjoy every minute to its fullest, and to dance like there's no tomorrow. You can do that here at Rivers Casino and Resort Schenectady, where the good times flow.
Welcome back. As mentioned earlier, a little action from across the pond. I said it yesterday, probably the highest quality meet in the world, given that it's 5 days, but there's group ones all over the place. And it's just Royal Ascot is a little bit of a different situation. It kind of kicks off the summer season, as it were. And, this year, no exception. There were some big performances, and I thought we'd take a look. And as they say, we'll keep our fingers crossed. We'll look at a couple American runners that we'll definitely see over here, but we'll keep our fingers crossed. And we'll start out yesterday. The wrap up to the meet, Saturday was the last day of the 5-day meet. And the grade 2 Hardwick was early on yesterday. And all eyes on Rebels Romance. Charlie Appleby training, William Buick riding. Rebels Romance will be the number 9 horse and gets it done pretty nicely. This is 1.5 miles on the turf. And you see Rebels Romance there in the Godolphin blue. Holding on, Al Rifa makes a little bit of a run that seems maybe threatening Al Rifa, the 2 horse, but ultimately no catching Rebels Romance. And I wanted to show this because what a horse this is, and a lot of people on social media were commenting, and as they should. This is one maybe we'll see here, because this horse we've already seen in the United States a few times. He's won the Breeders' Cup twice. 2022, he won it at Keeneland. Didn't run in the Breeders' Cup last year. 2 years ago at 2023. So he wins it 2022 at Keeneland, skips 2023, and wins it last year at Del Mar. So again, he's been here before. In fact, he was right up here at Saratoga last July July of 2023, in a did not finish race. He lost his jockey there. So he's been not only to the United States for the Breeders' Cup, he's been to Saratoga. Charlie Appleby certainly willing to accept challenges like that, going around the world, as he has done with this horse. Just, an incredible record for Rebels Romance. Again, he's had 26 starts, and after yesterday, 26 starts, 18 wins, almost $13 million in earnings. But I put up the lifetime record, and incredible as far as a world traveler. Yesterday, he was in the UK. He's had plenty of races over in England. He's been to Dubai. He's been to Qatar. He's been to Germany, Hong Kong. He won the Group 1 Champion and Chatter Cup there last year. He's also been to Saudi Arabia. So a number of countries, has returned to a number of those countries more than once, including here in America, and has done very well, as I say, almost $13 million in earnings, 18 wins. So Rebels Romance, again, worth taking a look at from this week at Royal Ascot. And as I say, we'll keep our fingers crossed. He's been here before. Charlie Appleby has been here, not just in general or for the Breeders' Cup, but Saratoga as well. Maybe we'll see him. We'll keep our fingers crossed on that, but it was a nice performance yesterday, one way or the other. Also wanted to show Ombudsman going back to Wednesday in the Prince of Wales's stake. Ombudsman, again, nice performances come out of this high-quality meet, and horses that are worth watching going forward, and this is one of them. William Buick on board again, and John Gosden training for Godolphin. Ombudsman, the number 7 horse, getting it done on Wednesday in the Prince of Wales. And again, I wanted to show this because this was career start number 6, career win number 5. So Ombudsman, maybe one of those we'll keep our eyes on internationally. Has done very little more wrong in the seasonal debut. The race prior to this had run a close-up second, the only loss in a 5-race career, and puts the capper on it so far with a nice score in a Group 1 at Royal Ascot. So again, he'll be one to watch. And this is one that we'll keep our fingers crossed. You would think that the potential 1.25 miles on the turf puts him in the conversation. I didn't see any follow-up, but potentially puts him in the conversation for a stop at the Breeders' Cup. We'll see. As I say, we'll keep our fingers crossed. And as noted, also wanted to take a look at a couple of American runners that did okay. Starting out, when I say starting out, really, it started out the meet, the Royal Ascot meet. Race number 1 on Wednesday was the Queen Mary Stakes, actually second day of the meet. Queen Mary Stakes, a Group 2. And this is one of those races that has a win and you're in down at Gulfstream. And Lenny Lou for Patrick Biancone won that win and you're in. Horses have come out of that and done okay, and Lenny Lou did. Lenny Lou's going to be the number 11. The winner is going to be number 23, True Love. 7, Flowerhead runs second, but number 11, Lenny Lou, runs third. Luis Saez on board for Patrick Biancone. And again, that those 2 races down at Gulfstream have done very well, producing very nice runners. So again, Lenny Lou third, but as you can see there, close up third overall in the 5 furlong straightaway turf race. So Luis Saez, Patrick Biancone, and Lenny Lou performed nicely early in the meet. And then on Thursday, it was George Weaver with Sandal Song. And George Weaver has taken over some runners and been successful and did well on Thursday in the Norfolk Stakes with Sandal Song. And Sandal Song, another one coming out of a win at Gulfstream that qualified him for this race, but he'll run third. Winner's number 3, Charles Darwin, for Aidan O'Brien and Ryan Moore. 16, Wise Approach runs second, and number 14, Sandal Song, runs third. Now, George picked up a rider over there, James McDonald, but it is a George Weaver trainee, number 14, Sandal Song, running third, coming out of that win you're in down at Gulfstream, which, as I say, has been productive since they've done it. It's fun to watch. It's fun to see them get that early start. And this isn't unusual either. For Sandal Song, it's 2 little stakes races down at Gulfstream in early May, and Sandal Song, it was the career debut, and it's kind of worked out for other horses. At the very least, it's start 1 or 2 at that point of the year. So goes over and off the maiden breaker and the little stake at Gulfstream, runs a decent third. And being a George Weaver horse, who knows? Maybe we'll see Sandal Song up at Saratoga. So again, there were some nice performances at Royal Ascot during the week, and some fun performances yesterday in kind of a limited stake schedule as well. All right, why don't we take a break? When we come back, we'll take a little handicapping look at some of the action for this afternoon. I'll be back in this afternoon taking a look at some Belmont at Aqueduct and some Churchill on this Sunday afternoon. So we'll pick our spot to do a little handicapping, maybe the late pick 5 or pick 4. We'll see what we have time for when we get back, but we'll give you some ideas for this afternoon. And in fact, we'll be back in, as I say, live as well. A couple hours for OTB Live on a Sunday afternoon. But Racing Across America continues. A little handicapping action next. Stay tuned.
Want to get your career in horse racing off to a fast start? Well, the University of Arizona's Racetrack Industry Program is your winning ticket. The Racetrack Industry Program has served as a springboard to some of the industry's most successful individuals, with a proven track record of job placement right out of college. If you want to earn a degree in the exciting horse racing industry, the Racetrack Industry Program can put you in the winner's circle.
You like free money? Well, Capital OTB gives its players plenty of opportunities to cash in. At Capital OTB, there are so many ways for horse players to receive bonus dollars by simply participating in promotions such as our bankrolls, bounty bets, online handicapping contests, and much, much more. Plus, with Capital OTB's Player Rewards Program, you get actual cash back. So what are you waiting for? Log on today at CapitalOTB.com or CapitalOTBBet.com and claim your free money.
Haven't signed up for a Capital OTB account yet? Now's the time to take advantage of the sign-up bonus. Open up a new account with $200 or more, bet $400 by the end of the month, and receive a bonus $200 into your account. Plus, you can take advantage of everything an OTB account has to offer: wagering from any device, live streaming, racing info, past performances, online promotions, and more. Sign up today and take advantage of the new account bonus. Details at capitalotb.com. Welcome back to Racing Across America on this Sunday morning. I'll take a look at that late pick for Belmont, but I'm trying to pull up, and the computer happens to be kind of crawling here. Any changes and make sure we're on the turf and all that. As they say, this is typical when I'm ready to look at something like this. The computer goes completely in the opposite direction. All right, so we're still on the turf, and let me see. So the 6th race, the 10 and 11 are out. I have like a miniature version here, so the guys are having to work a little bit. The 10 and the 11, in the 6th. All right. Which makes sense. They're main track only. So we are left in the 6th race for 6, 5, 3, and 2, going a mile on the grass. State Bird Allowance runners in the 6th, Belmont at the Big A. Again, this kicks off a late pick 4. This isn't a ticket idea. This is just some basic ideas. But Tongue Twister on top for Carlos David, coming in off a couple of races at Gulfstream to start the season, a win in the 2nd, then comes up to New York and runs a good 2nd. This is a state bred, so obviously the Gulfstream races were against Open Company. Appreciated the return to New York and state bred company with a good 2nd last time. Seems clearly like a logical player. But Trill, at 15-1 on the morning line, I thought was okay in here. Went off at 47-1 last time, but ran well. I mean, winds up fading to 5th, but showed a lot of punch early. That was a seasonal debut. Off of that one, if we get another lead in here, maybe can improve on what we saw last time. That sometimes happens. You get that picket fence going a little bit with a lot of ones in the PPs in the previous race, and then they fade a little. Oftentimes the next start, they hold on a little longer. First time in forever in the 3rd spot, like Bertrell, a second-time starter this season that I think has the opportunity to maybe move forward a little bit off the seasonal debut. Rogna for Jim Bond also looks to be a player. That one making the seasonal debut, but Tongue Twister potentially the one to beat. Again, with a little more recency than the others. In the 6th, Belmont at the Big A, 6, 5, 3, and 2. Race number 7, we lose the 1. I'm in the dust. Which is fine. I didn't use that one in my mix. This is the Wilton, and I will say, on the stake schedule, to me, the Wilton should be up here at Saratoga. It's just it's weird that they're naming it after it was a race that clearly was meant for Saratoga. Started in Saratoga. It's kind of honoring the Saratoga geographic neighbor, as it were. So that to hold the Wilton downstate seems a little funny, but regardless, $125,000 up for grabs. 3-year-old fillies going a mile, 3, 5, 2, and 6. Catchat on top. Mark Hennig trainee comes in really good form. 6-1 on the morning line off a couple of nice wins. Maiden Breaker and then optional claim or non-winners of 1. Both of them were done nicely. Daylight wins. I think Catchat steps into the stakes debut in fine fashion. I say that I have a 3, 5, 2, and 6. Catchat, and I'm saying it because I had Catchat on top. I have some scratches and whatnot that probably suitable for a cat. I actually did go with the favorite on top, Maziat. But take a look at Catchat again, because I think you will get a price. I think Maziat will go off as the favorite, being the Mott horse with the series of improving numbers. And again, I bounced back and forth. with Cat Chat and the potential to move forward. We'll probably have to move forward as compared to Maziat, but not that much. And Maziat is lightly raced and has to prove that she can maybe put a couple of starts, a couple of numbers together like that. But the bullet workout coming in tilted me towards the 3. Pink Ruby, I actually wound up putting between those two at 10-1 off a nice one at Monmouth last time with a solid number. Broke the maiden 2 back, won the follow-up. So this one is very similar to Cat Chat. They're 10-1 on the morning line and 6-1, whereas Maziat's the favorite. But watch the odds coming up. As I say, I had these kind of juggled around first spin and wound up 3, 5, 2, and 6, but I could play around in other directions with confidence. And if I'm playing, multis, pick 4, I'm probably putting all 3 of those in the mix. Sweet Seraphine for a Cherie DeVoe with IROD on board. And that one down the 4 spot. There's potential there, certainly, but I thought the others, what we've seen so far, I thought the others were a little bit better. 3, 5, 2, and 6 in the 7th. 8th race, we lose the 2, was in my mix. The 4, the 8, and the 11. The 11's a main track only. They're on the turf here. State bred optional claimers, non-winners of 2. 5, 1, and 10 set on top. Marcassi trainee making a seasonal debut, but did show some potential last year. Comes back with a first-time gelding symbol. Been working down at, this attracted my attention too, been working down at Mark's facility down in Ocala as recently as June 3rd. So, no surprise they come up. But that the horse was working down there under his watch, you would assume, at some point. First-time gelding symbol, as they say. Going to be interesting in the seasonal debut. 5-1, but I think has the potential to run better than that. Yarrow in the 2nd spot. This one also making the seasonal debut for Miguel Clement. Also showed some punch last year and should be a player if ready. And then in the 3rd spot, with a little more recency than the top 2, Warlow, who tried the turf last time and very much seemed to appreciate it. So 2nd time on the turf, and it may be one of those where they'll say, why didn't we try the turf earlier? But they did try on May 26th, got a nice win. I would expect more of the same today in the 8th, 5, 1, and 10. And in the 9th race, we lose the 3 and 12 and 13. Are they empty? They are. They're MTOs, 12 and the 13 out as well. 9th and final today at Belmont at the Big A. Maiden claimers going 8.5 on the grass. 8, 9, 10, and the 1 entry. I'll put Majorca on top. Todd Pletcher trainee dropped in for the tag last time and ran arguably the best race of the career. There was one that was okay, and the number was slightly better a few starts back down at Tampa on the dirt. But the last showed some speed, faded a little bit, and ran well. At this level, with the move to the turf, I'll look for that one to benefit from that effort and go well again today. Tommy Proctor with Ski Bum. A little bit interesting. Raced up at Saratoga in June, the Belmont, early June, the Belmont at Saratoga meet. Didn't do that well there. Showed some foot early before fading, but faded to 8th. But that was against maiden specials. I like the class move here to put that one in the mix, maybe at a price. And McHale in the 3rd spot of a good try last time, like the top pick when dropped down for the tag. In the 9th and final, Belmont at the Big A, 8, 9, 10, and the 1 entry. So there you go, a little look at some of the action this afternoon, Belmont at the Big A. Let me reiterate some of the notes for today. With the expected weather, if you weren't tuned in at the top of the show, expected heat in a large swath of the country. Folks have either canceled or changed post times. Today, Woodbine will be at 4 p.m. Woodbine kicks off at 4 p.m. today. Canterbury at 6 p.m. Hawthorne is canceled for today. Tomorrow, Finger Lakes and Parks have canceled. So tomorrow, Monday, Finger Lakes and Parks canceled. Harrington goes at 7 p.m. Tuesday, Parks canceled, Plain Ridge canceled, Harrington at 7 p.m. And Wednesday, Delaware has already canceled. So they're your next few days as far as that heat situation. I will again remind you, there's over $900,000 in the carryover of the Pick Six. It's a jackpot. I said earlier, and I said yesterday, I don't typically talk about these jackpot carryovers because they go on forever. It only goes to one person. So I don't typically mention them unless they start to get into this range, $900,000. And yesterday with $800,000 in the carryover, the consolation paid well over $1,900. It's a 20-cent ticket. And as I noted earlier, you had one horse over $10, and that was a $12 horse. So it was a very playable sequence, I thought, yesterday. You got $1,900. So, again, with the big carryover at Churchill, you can play and you get the consolation. You can wind up with a little chunk of change, and you can put together a nice ticket for a reasonable amount of money. And I have to also toss in, people love the pick fives, and people really love the pick fives with carryovers, and you get two of them today at Laurel. Laurel's early pick five today, $58,000 carryover, and the Laurel Park late pick five today, $32,000 carryover. So lots of notes on the action today and in the next couple of days as well. One of those I will also note, we were scheduled to make a road trip, OTB Live on the road tomorrow, Monday, but Finger Lakes is canceled. They're shifting action to Thursday, and we'll head out then. That's our game plan at this point. But there's also a bankroll tied into it. The bankroll is open. Entries for the bankroll, they'll be open another hour or so. Go to capitalotb.com, click on the promotions link, look for the graphic that talks about the bankroll. Click on that. There's an entry form. Fill it out. Put your name in the hat. And then later today or early tomorrow, we will select the team. And the game plan now is for us to be on the road on Thursday, and we will have the bankroll on Thursday as well. So keep that in mind. You still have about an hour or so. Swing by the website and put your name in the hat to potentially get on the team and maybe make a little extra money courtesy of Capital OTB. All right, I'm going to wrap it up for Racing Across America on this Sunday morning. Happy you tuned in. Go grab a little brunch, as it were, and then come back in about an hour and a half or so, and we'll kick things off for a Sunday afternoon OTB Live. I'll look at a little Belmont at the Big A and some Churchill. We'll have plenty of other action as well on what should be a fun Sunday afternoon into a Sunday evening. So stay tuned. We'll see you soon.
Sometimes it pays to go with the flow, to check your worries at the door, to reconnect with your crew, to follow the thrills and the flavor, to roll with it and see where it takes you, to enjoy every minute to its fullest, and to dance like there's no tomorrow. You can do that here at Rivers Casino and Resort Schenectady, where the good times flow.
Want to get your career in horse racing off to a fast start? Well, the University of Arizona's Racetrack Industry Program is your winning ticket. The Racetrack Industry Program has served as a springboard to some of the industry's most successful individuals, with a proven track record of job placement right out of college. If you want to earn a degree in the exciting horse racing industry, the Racetrack Industry Program can put you in the winner's circle.
We'd like to thank Woodbine for their sponsorship of this program and some of the other programming and events here at Capital OTB. Woodbine open now through December, featuring great racing, including the King's Plate coming up in August, Turf Champions Day with the Woodbine Mile in September, and much, much more. Woodbine Racing, great racing north of the border.
You're watching OTB TV, a service of Capital Off-Track Betting.
Relatively quiet Sunday afternoon. 3 meetings playing out here. Fosslas, Pontefract and Hexham. We're at Fosslas again for the 4th race there, which is a handicap race. Class 5, horses rated up to 72. And they are going around about 7.5 furlongs, or just under 7.